Hello students, welcome to our first video of class 8 history, our past 3, chapter 4, tribal Dikus and the vision of a golden age. In this chapter, we will see the effect of colonization on the lives of tribals. So let us begin. Now let us see who are tribals. Tribals, Adivasis or Aboriginals were usually the original inhabitants of vast tracts in western, central, southern, eastern and northeastern parts of the country. They may be defined as groups of people bound together by a similar language, culture and customs. Tribals did not have social divisions like the societies based on caste. Most tribes had customs and rituals that were very different from those laid down by Brahmins. Although tribal communities formed a substantial part of Indian population, they mostly lived isolated from the mainstream society. This is an image of Bagurumba dance which belongs to the Boro tribes of the northeastern region of India. Now let us see how the tribals lived. In many regions, tribals made their living by hunting and gathering forest products. Forests were essential for their survival. They gathered fruits, roots, honey, and medicinal herbs from the forest. They either consumed these goods themselves or sold them in the market. Some of them practiced jhum cultivation, that is shifting cultivation, or in other words we can call it slash and burn agriculture. This was done on small patches of land, mostly in forest. The cultivators cut the tree tops to allow sunlight to reach the ground and burned the vegetation on the land to clear it for cultivation. They spread the ash from the firing which contained potash to fertilize the soil. They used the axe to cut trees and the hoe to scratch the soil in order to prepare it for cultivation. They broadcast the seeds, that is, scattered the seeds on the field instead of plowing the land and sowing the seeds. Once the crop was ready and harvested, they moved to another field. A field that had been cultivated once was left fallow for several years. Here fallow means a field left uncultivated for a while so that the soil recovers its fertility. Shifting cultivators were found in the hilly and forested tracts of northeast and central India. The lives of these tribal people depended on free movement within the forest and on being able to use the lands and forest for growing their crops. That is the only way they could practice shifting cultivation. Many tribal groups lived by herding and rearing animals. They were pastoralists who moved with their herds of cattle or sheep according to the season. When the grass in one place was exhausted, they moved to another area. The Ban-Gujjars of the Punjab hills and the Labaddis of Andhra Pradesh were cattle herders. The Gaddis of Kullu were shepherds and the Bakarwals of Kashmir reared goats. Most of the tribes were nomads. Even before the 19th century, many from within the tribal groups had begun settling down and cultivating their fields in one place year after year. Instead of moving from place to place, they began to use the plow and gradually got rights over the land they lived on. In many cases, like the Mundas of Chota Nagpur, the land belonged to the clan as a whole. All members of the clan were regarded as descendants of the original settlers who had first cleared the land. Therefore, all of them had rights on the land. Very often, some people within the clan acquired more power than others. Some became chiefs and others followers. Powerful men often rented out their land instead of cultivating it themselves. British officials saw settled tribal groups like the Gonds and Santals as more civilized than hunter-gatherers or shifting cultivators. Those who lived in the forest were considered to be wild and savage. They needed to be settled and civilized. Now let us see how did colonial rule affect tribal lives. Before the arrival of the British, in many areas, the tribal chiefs were important people. They enjoyed certain amounts of economic power and had the right to administer and control their territories. In some places, they had their own police and decided on the local rules of land and forest management. Under British rule, the functions and powers of the tribal chiefs changed considerably. They were allowed to keep their land titles over a cluster of villages and rent out lands, but they lost much of their administrative power and were forced to follow laws made by British officials in India. They also had to pay tribute to the British and discipline the tribal groups on behalf of the British. They lost the authority they had earlier enjoyed amongst the people and were unable to fulfill their traditional functions. The life of tribal groups, as you have seen, was directly connected to the forest, so changes in forest laws had a considerable effect on tribal lives. The British introduced some fundamental changes in the forest laws, which affected the lives of tribals considerably. They established state control over forest regions and declared the forest as state property. Some forests were classified as reserve forests as they produced timber which the British required. The tribals in this forest were not allowed to move freely, collect fruits, practice shifting cultivation, or hunt animals. As a result, many tribals were forced to move to other areas for work and livelihood. Let us summarize what we have learned today. Tribals were usually the original inhabitants of vast tracts of India. Tribal people performed various activities like shifting cultivation, hunting and gathering, animal rearing, etc. British rule affected tribals' traditional way of living. Let us see what you have grasped today. Here are some questions for you. Your question number 1 is, shifting cultivation is also known as, their options are A. Slash and burn agriculture, B. Settle cultivation, C. Hunting and gathering, D. None of the above. And the correct answer is A. Slash and burn agriculture. Your next question is, Boros are a tribe of dash, and the options are A. Central India, B. North India, C. South India, or D. Northeast India. And the correct answer is D. Northeast India. Your next question is, dash tribes were considered to be more civilized. The options are A. Garos, B. Khasis, C. Bodos, or D. Gonds. And the correct answer is D. Gonds. It's practice time now. Here is some home task for you. And your first question is, who were tribals? Your next question is, list 3 features of the tribal society. And your third question is, what happened to the tribal chiefs under colonial rule? In our next video, we will see more about the effects of colonization on the life of tribals. Till then, take care of yourself, stay home, stay safe. Thank you.